Hello everyone, Dr. Mina Gergis, a medical doctor in Australia, belong to the Coptic Orthodox Church. In today's episode of Christianity Simplified, we're going to talk about the topic, does God exist? I'm going to give you evidence that God exists. First thing, I will mention the statement from astrophysicist Robert Jastrow. He stated that the universe came into being as a result of cosmic explosion, what we call the Big Bang, and we cannot find out what caused that to happen. I'll reply that the Big Bang is a theory. This means it's not proven, doesn't have any scientific evidence for it. But again, if you apply the physics rules and laws to that, how you want or how can you scientifically prove that out of nothing something will come, especially if it was something as huge as this universe? The second reply is, assume that this explosion happened accidentally and give rise to this universe, but how did the universe come in that order, and how this order still existing to maintain environmental balance and the life on our planet, for example? So there's humans, plants, animals, water, air. It's in a very nice order to promote our existence on that planet. How this order happened and how it's maintained, unless there was a creator for all that universe. And again, in reply, yes, there is different religions, but the heavenly religions believe that there is a God, and that God is the creator of the universe. Regardless who is this God, that's the difference between different heavenly religions. But that proposal make more sense, because if you think about the universe, its order, how it's maintained, that cannot be all happen by accident, and it's just maintained by accident. Stephen Hawking said, if you accept as I do that the laws of nature are fixed, then it doesn't take long to ask what role is there for God. In reply to a statement, I can say that you are wrong and what you're stating doesn't make sense. If you are actually admitting that the laws of nature are fixed, my question to you is, how an accident managed to give rise to a nature which have fixed law to keep it going in a certain order? Can you prove this scientifically to me? Actually, it's the other way around. Actually, there must be a God who created that order, and for things to stay in that order, for the laws of nature to stay fixed. What about evolution? I don't, and Christians don't believe, and most religions don't believe in Darwin theory of evolution. And again, that's a theory, which means it's not proven. But again, from a scientific point of view, I would say, if Darwin evolution theory is correct, where are the fossils which prove these intermediate creatures, which prove that we came from monkeys, and which also prove that the life came from plants and all these bits and things? Where is this intermediate fossils to prove this transition? The other thing is, if you assuming that we came from monkeys, why there is monkeys still around? Why the monkeys are not extinct? Because humans are still now there and they are existing. Did some monkeys evoluted and some not? And apply that to any other animal or plant? Doesn't make sense, even from a scientific point of view. Yes, we believe in adaptation, where the animal or the plant or any living creature will start to make some adaptation to the environment for better survival, which we call it macro evolution, but we don't believe in Darwin evolution or macro evolution. Again, another proof. What about dignity and ethics? First of all, think about it. How an atom or a molecule will give rise to dignity or ethics or conscience. Where the emotions come from. We cannot scientifically prove the existence of these things because they are non-materialistic. But is inability of the science to prove these things doesn't mean that they don't exist, and you can apply that on God. If science cannot prove or disprove the presence of God, it doesn't mean that God is absent or that is not there. Give an example. Just with our own limited senses, we cannot see the air. Does this mean that the air doesn't exist? Not really. The other thing, if God doesn't exist and we are becoming all like atheists, what's the motivation or the obligation to do good? You can say, to be a good human in the community. What for? Why don't live life as it is, get the most of it because I'm going to die, because there is no God, there is no repercussion, there is no afterlife. And some people live that way. And if you say, but there is culture and things, but cultures change from one country to another. Where is the moral standards? Where you shall say that's right and that's wrong, that's acceptable, that's not? How you will be able to tell between what's right and what's wrong? Where will be the obvious difference between good and evil? You know, if we continue with that matter, you can say as part of the survival of the fittest and the natural selection process, I can go and kill someone because they are just less fit, in my opinion. Where is the logic in that? People say, but even if we say that there is God, how come there is suffering and misery in that living? I will say, is the presence of suffering prove or disprove the presence of God? Okay, take God out of the picture and assume that there is no God. Did this improve the suffering? Did it change anything? Or it will make it more miserable? Because that would be it, that life which is full of suffering and misery. You're just trying to take away hope here. I'll even tell you something. Just look at the statistics. The percentage of mental health illnesses, suicide, drugs, addiction is much higher in the countries which are, we call them developed, but they are getting away from God and religion and faith. Why is that? Because of that. In philosophy they say that our existence is based on what we think of existent to be. If you think of the life that it's meaningless, there is no God, there is no afterlife, it's just life full of suffering, a lot of people will say, what's the point of that? I better end it. And you start to fall into mental illnesses. If they cannot feel and see and have a faith that God exists and He watching what's right and what's wrong and He will judge everyone according to their deeds, you will say, what's the point? There is no repercussion. Again, I will just prove another thing, that God exists in history and He intervened in a lot of historical events. We all know that in history there is the story and the event of the Jews leaving Egypt and crossing the Red Sea, and that is mentioned in 3 religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But actually that historic event proved that God intervened in some events and deal with His people. I usually say to people who say, prove to me that there is God, I usually reply them back, can you prove to me actually that there is no God? Thank you all for listening. I hope to see you again in another episode. God bless. Bye.